Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Mark. Today's guest makes this podcast kind of literal. Meet Elisa Di Napoli, also known as Elyssa Vulpes. She does so many things, it's really tough to pin it down. However, one of the areas she specializes in is hypnotherapy. She has an entire program to help artists overcome, wait for it, performance anxiety. But you don't just start out in life as a hypnotherapist. Actually, Elisa's first career choice was a cartoon singer. Elisa talks about her global childhood and the roundabout way she got into guitar, and her way of rebelling was moving from Italy to Scotland when her parents decided to move to New Zealand, although New Zealand was not their first choice. She suffered from some pretty intense performance anxiety, but kept trying to overcome it by just getting on stage and performing. But that was just making it worse. That's when she began studying, and studying, and studying. We talk about the assumptions of hypnotherapy, which are accurate and which are not, and why some level of anxiety is actually good. Elisa has put together a comprehensive program to deal with performance anxiety and has even set up a masterclass that my listeners can take for free at elisadinapoli.com/performance anxiety. So do that and browse the website to see what else she offers. Follow her at Elyssa Vulpes on social media, ELYSSAVULPES. Follow us at Performance ANX. Buy merch at performanceanx.threadless.com. Feed our coffee habit at ko-fi.com/performance anxiety. Now prepare to have just the right level of performance anxiety with Elisa Di Napoli on performance anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
So my name is Elisa Di Napoli, also known as Elyssa Vulpes, and I'm on the Performance Anxiety podcast, talking today about performance anxiety and how to overcome it. And if you are interested in this, just listen to this episode, and I had a lot of fun recording it.
Should be good to go now. Thank you. This is cool. Thank you so much for reaching out and doing this. This is a lot different from what I normally do. So this is cool.
Yeah.
So, this is definitely a bit of a departure for the podcast because you do so many different things. You are a musician, but there is a lot more to you professionally than just being a musician. So I wanted to kind of, start off in the beginning, very beginning. So my understanding is that you're born in Italy, but you've lived in Scotland, London, Ireland, now you're in New Zealand. Am I missing any places? There's any other continents that I've missed?
No, that's it.
Okay. When you're growing up, were you more into music or were you more into the academic side of the professions that you currently practice?
When I was younger, I think probably music. But then, I remember that when I was 16, I attempted to read Freud's interpretation of dreams, and I didn't understand it at all. Right. But, I tried. So
yeah, I'm 50. I still wouldn't understand that.
Yeah. So I think it's actually been, the truth is that I've always been interested in both, in equal value, and always try to kind of bring them together. Okay. I think it's only taken me only like 25 years really to bring them together.
So growing up, was music a big presence in the house, or was it not there at all, or somewhere in between?
Well, my parents were really into opera and into classical music. So there was always classical music playing. Oh, nice. But no modern, nothing like my father used to call modern music, whatever that is, all modern music that's not classical, like boom, boom, boom music.
Anything produced after the 19th century. Yeah.
So this was the kind of atmosphere in the house. And then my brother wanted to go to the conservatory, the Santa Cecilia in Rome, is a very famous conservatory for music. And he was studying to get in, but he didn't get in. And then I wanted to go and study flute. But my parents basically were like, no, we've done this before. You're not going to even try.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so that didn't work. And then they were like, oh, maybe we'll give you some piano lessons. But that I had a teacher that was very old fashioned and not very nice, So I basically gave that up. And then finally, one day I was at a school concert, and I saw this guy play a Led Zeppelin song, Baby, I'm Gonna Leave You. And I absolutely fell in love then, and decided I've got to play guitar. I've got to sing. And I'm going to have to play guitar because I want to sing. So, I'll just learn that. And so that was the beginning.
So were you singing just around the house before that? Or was singing always something that you did?
Yeah, singing really is something that I always did. I remember the first time probably that I became passionate about it was when I was 6, and I was listening to, watching cartoons on TV. And in Italy, we had these songs. For each cartoon, there was like a specific song that would come up. And so I, with my little, very old-fashioned recorder machine, I recorded all the songs, and then I learned them all by heart because my idea was when I grow up, I'm going to be a cartoon singer.
That's a first. I have never met anybody with that specific goal in mind. That's awesome.
Well, later I didn't want to be a cartoon singer. I just wanted to be a singer. But, as a child, I thought that was that's what you did. There wasn't more to it than that. Yeah.
Once you started hearing more pop music, rock music, did you have to sneak that stuff into the house since your parents were pretty much classical or nothing?
Well, what helped was my brother. My brother was like 6 years older than me, and he was listening to Queen, Led Zeppelin, The Doors, and he's the one who actually took me by his side and said, "You've got to stop listening to Rick Ashley, and Ross." Like, that's shit music. You have to listen to this. And he gave me the album, the Queen album, and then I basically learned everything by heart in that album. Anything he gave me, I learned it by heart.
Oh, wow! See, that could be sneaky too, because you bring in Queen's Night at the Opera, and your parents it says opera right there. You snuck in a Queen album.
Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah. So at what point did you really branch out and start playing with other people in bands and was there a large contingent of people in the scene in your town where you?
No, when I was like a teenager, there was absolutely nothing. I lived in this kind of horrible suburb, that was quite poor, not much going on. And but what happened was my school, they organized a school concert. So I got into doing a song there, and I basically asked my guitar teacher to play guitar, and I asked my brother to play the saxophone, and I just sang. So I got into it that way, but very shortly after, I basically moved to Scotland, and I didn't know anybody there. And what actually happened is I discovered a very obscure band called The Trees, and who's like this psychedelic folk from the 70s.
Okay.
And then I really loved it so much and also the Incredible String Band. That's another kind of, you might know that band.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them. Yeah,
and so that's when I started writing. Well, I started learning folk songs, English and Irish and Scottish folk songs, and then from there I started writing my own songs. And that's when it basically the whole writing composition thing started a long time ago, And basically the bands that I was in, they were all my bands, meaning I was like the leader of the band with my own songs. But of course that wasn't that easy because, as a young girl, I found it tricky to be the leader of the band because they were always men, and I was quite shy. So.
Okay.
Yeah, that was difficult, because I've always felt like I didn't want to piss them off or tell them to do something differently, just in case they just, Well,
yeah, if you're just starting out too, it's, I've got these guys who've been playing for years. Who am I to tell them what to do, even though it's your song?
Exactly. So it's always been a little bit a difficult one, that one. So basically all the bands have been my bands.
Okay. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Before you skip over this ad, give me 1 minute. Like most podcasts, I pick sponsors carefully and I use the products that advertise here. Pure Spectrum CBD is a product that has been really beneficial for me. They have a wide variety of great products that can be used on a daily or as needed basis. I've been using the tincture every day and it's been wonderful for easing anxiety. And I absolutely love the isolate. I use it instead of acetaminophen or ibuprofen, and it's worked so well for the relief of aches and pains. They also have soaks, lotions, salves, gummies, and more, plus an entire line for fitness recovery. They even have products for your pets. See everything they offer at purespectrumcbd.com. And if you have questions, they're there to help. They helped me when I had no idea where to start. After you fill your cart, use code PERFORMANCEANX for 15% off your purchase. Pure Spectrum CBD, Pure Spectrum CBD, Pure Spectrum CBD. Well, we kind of glossed over one kind of important thing. What made you go to Scotland in the first place?
Well, actually, it started because I put aside some money. Like during my whole childhood, I was very much encouraged by my parents to like put my money into like a fake bank with them, like so that I would learn how to save. Mm-hmm. And they gave me like a really big percentage of, back like kind of interest. Yeah. And so at the end, when I was about 16, I decided to go interrailing in Europe. So basically when you take the train and you just go wherever you like.
Okay.
And I kind of lied to my parents, told them I was going with a friend, but I was actually by myself. My God, when I think about it, it was so dangerous. Anyway, I ended up in Scotland, and that's when I fell in love with Edinburgh because of the Gothic architecture. I love Edinburgh's Gothic architecture and the music and everything there was just so cool, So I decided to basically go there and live there. But it wasn't until more than 10 years later when I actually went and lived in Scotland properly. It's a long story. I could write a book about it.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So that was the start of your globe hopping then? Yes.
Actually, to be fair, my parents started this trend in our family because when it was the 25th anniversary of their marriage, they decided to go on a world trip. Ooh. And when they came back, that's when my father said and announced that as soon as I turned 18, they were going to move. And they decided first to move to Canada. And then they decided, no, it's not going to be Canada. It's going to be New Zealand. And that's when I was like, well, if you're going to abandon me and go into New Zealand, then I'll go to Scotland.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, your family. Wow.
Yeah,
we're just going. The hell with Italy. We're going to go to New Zealand. From what I've seen, I've never been there, but from what I've seen, it looks amazing. It looks incredibly beautiful, but it's not the first place that comes to mind for me when I think of relocating. That's wild.
Yeah, but first they were going to go to Canada. We went on a trip there, and my mom was not impressed with the amount of snow that there was and how cold it was. And it was like, nah, I'm not moving there, And
I love your parents.
And to be honest, we have this really funny thing happened when we were in Montreal and we were going to fly to Vancouver. And I think that if we had actually flown to Vancouver, that would have been where we would have ended up. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, what happened is that on the way to the airport, we just stopped for 2 minutes to open the boot and do some things. Mm-hmm. And we didn't realize that this car was very modern for the times, and it actually had this automatic locking system. So it locked all of the doors. So we were locked out of the car.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and we couldn't find any more flights for 2 weeks to Vancouver. And so that was that. Never been.
Wow, that's crazy. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. So now we'll go back to you're in Scotland. Your parents are in New Zealand. And so you're playing music, but you do a lot more than, like I said in the beginning, you're more than just a musician. I mean, you do mindset coaching, creativity coaching, performance coaching, hypnotherapy, psychotherapy, meditation training. When did all this start? I mean, that's a lot of studying and a lot of training. When did all of this start?
Well, it started when I was 18. You know, I wanted to become a professor when I was, my family is quite academic. Okay. My brother is a professor of physics. You know, I was kind of, expected to become a professor as well. And I wanted to at first. So I started studying philosophy and then Western philosophy. And then I felt like, Western philosophy, there's something missing here. So I started studying Eastern philosophy. Okay. And then with that, I thought, because Eastern philosophy is very, very different in their approach, and it's and there was no religion, you know, the element of religion was missing. So I thought, okay, I should study religion. So then I started studying comparative religion, and with that, I thought, actually, what interests me is altered states of consciousness, because, that's when we get to experience. Where there's some crossovers between different religions, and actually there's something that's common to all of them. That's what I was kind of looking for. And then I bumped into, I came across the LSD research of the 1960s, Aldous Huxley, the dose of perception, but then also like shamanism. And so I started kind of looking into that. And then that's what I discovered. Basically, the hypnotherapy is, when done well, is very similar to shamanism, but without the supernatural. There's no supernatural element to it. Okay. And so I thought, this is really interesting. And by that point, I had become very disillusioned with the academic system in the UK, because it didn't feel like they were nurturing individuality and creativity. It seemed more like, you had to basically become an assistant to whatever professor you had and kind of make coffees and things like that. And, and I thought also this is an uphill battle, because my approach was very not unconventional. And I thought, I'm going to have to fight really hard to be even allowed to do this research. Like these days, psychedelics are researched quite a lot within the realm of psychotherapy, but not back in 1998,
Right.
Yeah, so that's when I decided, look, I don't want to be an academic anymore. I'm going to have to find another job now. And I didn't really know what to do. And then when hypnotherapy came, was an option. And so then I trained into hypnotherapy. And then the rest, all the other stuff that you mentioned is more like a professional development that you have to do if you are a therapist anyway.
Okay, so it's kind of like continuing education and expansion. Yeah. During all of this studying and working and certification achieving, are you still playing music?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I was only stopped I never really stopped, but anyway, that's a different subject. I haven't really stopped playing music per se. In fact, recently, when I moved to New Zealand, I not only kind of boosted it up a little bit, because I had a 5-year stint where I tried to give it up because I was very disillusioned with fringe festivals, performances that I was doing in Edinburgh, etc. Yeah. That I thought, maybe I should just stop. But actually, to be honest, it was not possible for me to stop. I got very depressed about it, and I thought, no. Wow. Yeah. So I thought I have to do this. And so then I actually opened a little school of music here in New Zealand as well. And I didn't expect that at all. So I'm doing hypnotherapy and psychotherapy in the morning, and then doing teaching and basically also getting students from my other teachers in the afternoon. It's a very busy life. And then at night I go and perform.
Oh, wow. Okay. Geez, you are busy. So you're performing as Elyssa Vulpes.
Yes.
Which, that's the sound you have is so cool. It's like this indie folk rock meets cabaret sound. I absolutely love the song and the video for Night is Falling.
Staring at the clock, snow melts on your hands. You stare at it in shock. The weather's turning.
Yeah.
That video, that is so cool. It's like and I definitely suggest everybody go check this out because it's like this really cool mix of like block carving animation and the Brothers Quay. It is just awesome. Visually, it's exactly what I love. So it is so worth checking out. So definitely check out Elyssa Vulpes, which we'll spell that at some point in this so everybody can check it out. Night is Falling. It is an amazing piece of art.
Oh, thank you.
So you're doing all this stuff now. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I heard that there was you yourself actually suffered from one particular specific instance of performance anxiety or stage fright that kind of set a lot of things in motion for you. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I was, since I started back when I was 16, I had this kind of events that at the time I didn't realize it were kind of traumatic for me. Like, not traumatic in the big with the big T, but like a small T. Like, my first one was that famous concert that I talked about before when I said that I saw the guy perform Baby I'm Gonna Leave You. I was just so enthralled, but I was so taken into this other world, and I was so into it that I got very enthusiastic, and I shouted in this assembly, like 300 people, all my peers, and then teachers. I was like, someone give me the microphone, and I really wanted the microphone. So I got the microphone, and I wanted to say how touched and moved I was. And then as soon as I didn't think, I just got the microphone and then realized in that moment, what the hell are you doing? Like, what are you going to say now? I just froze and went, and I didn't have anything to say. Everybody's looking at me, everybody's laughing, and I thought, oh my God, I didn't say anything, and I gave back the microphone. Felt humiliated because when you're 16, that's a big deal, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is. Yeah.
And then basically after that, I noticed that I would tremble, like if I had a piece of paper on stage because I wanted to read an introduction or maybe the words of a song or whatever, it would tremble. I would tremble all over. And then all the years later that I started performing, I would have such a disappointment every time I went on stage. I just didn't, I did very, not as well as when I was by myself in my room. I could really express myself when I was on my own. But then if I went on stage, I would forget my words. I would forget the chords. Yeah, I would sing kind of without any real passion because I was so worried, making mistakes and all that basically I went on like that for many, many years. And then one day I decided that I was thinking, well, I can't get over this. Maybe I should just give up,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was very, for example, to tell you, like one of the worst times was I was singing, and then in the middle of the song, that thought came back and that said, what if you forget the next verse? And suddenly I could not remember anything anymore. It was all gone out of my memory.
Oh, wow.
Oh, God. Yeah, and I just tried and the performance had to stop in the middle, and I couldn't go on, and I just left running. I went out of the stage, just ran home, and thought, okay, that was so humiliating. I just can never do this again.
Wow.
Very dramatic. But I did do it again. Basically, what I did is I asked. At the time, I was a hypnotherapist, but first, don't ask me why. It's so silly. It's like being a fish in water. You don't see the water. Mm-hmm. And Yeah, I never had considered hypnotherapy before, even though I was an hypnotherapist, and I still am.
Yeah.
And I basically thought, well, maybe I need an external viewpoint, someone else. So I went to a colleague and said, "Can you please hypnotize me? Can you do something for me? Can you help me with this?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, sure." So we did some sessions, and it really helps, and I thought, oh my God, this actually works. I mean, of course it works because
you're doing it for other people.
Yeah, but I always thought, I'm special. These things don't apply to me. I absolutely, I should be able to do it without help.
Yep, I know what you mean.
Yeah, right. So that's when I started kind of asking more and more for help instead. Went to different hypnotherapists, asked them, what would you do with this? And they basically compiled a list of methods and techniques. And then I basically thought, okay, I started getting better. And then I thought, well, I should help other people, with this problem. So I started kind of using these techniques and putting together kind of a package, if you like, of the essential ones that would apply to different situations and depending on what was going on with the people that I was acting. And so basically, cut a long story short, I put together like this bunch of 10 hypnotherapy techniques. And I used them, and then I basically thought, oh, maybe I should write a book about it, or maybe I should do a course about it, just to help the other people that are not in my town, and also people that couldn't really afford it, because hypnotherapy can be expensive. And I thought, if I do an online course, maybe other people from, I don't know, America, anywhere really could do it, because if I make it not too expensive, So that's what I did. And and then here I am now, feeling very differently
on a podcast called Performance Anxiety.
Yeah. I actually feel very comfortable now, actually really like giving interviews and doing speeches and performing. It's become fun, but it's taken this big journey.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. And we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. One of the things that sounds fascinating to me is, for example, you were saying that you didn't always feel comfortable in front of an audience, and yet you kept going back and doing it over and over again without treating yourself. It's amazing. And it's the hardest thing is to diagnose yourself, I think. And for someone to keep going back and trying that, it's amazing that we as humans will do that. We put ourselves in uncomfortable situations on purpose, find ourselves uncomfortable, and then go and do it again.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that if I had done it in a different way, it would have helped, but I didn't do it that way. I did it in a way that actually made the problem worse, because I kept on having bad experiences, and then the experience would compound to prove that, maybe I don't have what it takes, and all this bullshit that I was saying to myself. And the reason why I was going back is because A, I'm stubborn, but B, because I thought, well, maybe I am shy and I don't like performing, but I really, really want to share my songs and my writing and my stories, I believed in what I was doing in terms of the product. It was more that I thought maybe I just need more time to get used to it and get better at it. But if I had known, if someone had, the future me could have come, back from the future to the present at the time and tell me, actually, don't do it this way, do it this other way, then I would have been better, because I wouldn't have had so many terrible experiences,
Well, and it sounds like it started really early on when your parents, you saying, hey, I want to do this. Your parents like, no, we tried that already with your brother. Don't worry about it.
All right. Oh, I forgot this other thing that happened as well when I was 11. So when I did a year of piano, and at the end of the year, I had a recital, and I learned the piece by heart. I knew it really well. I've done it a million times. I went to play piano, and I even remember, the beginning of the song. It was like da 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 da, and then I stopped. And then I was like, oh, what's the next bit again? And so then I thought, oh, I'll do it again. And then again, oh, shit. Blank, And then third time, and then my teacher, panicking, looks at me, looks at the audience, and goes, "Oh, let's give Elisa a nice big round of applause, encouragement, So everybody's going clap, 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 and I'm like, oh my god, shut up! And so,
oh wow.
Yeah, it was, and then I said, look, can I just have the I don't know in English the music sheets?
Okay. Yeah.
Can I have the music sheets? I didn't need to read them, but it was this psychological thing. I needed to have it in front of me, just in case.
A safety net.
And so then I did it. Like on the fourth time, with the book in front of me, I managed to do it.
And at such a young age, that, like you mentioned, that can have such a lasting effect on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I believe that one and the other 16-year-old kind of incident, and then all the other incidents after that, they all form this picture of, I'm too sensitive, I'm too shy, I don't have what it takes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just because you see people out there who either don't suffer from performance anxiety or stage fright, or they've worked their way through it, but you don't see all the behind the scenes stuff that they've gone through. And then you just compare your unfinished product to their finished product.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned, and we've talked a little bit about it, the hypnotherapy. And I don't want to go down the whole, I saw somebody do that, but how does it work? Because I've always we'll skip through all the jokes and all the silliness. I've heard that you can only really hypnotize somebody who wants to be hypnotized. If somebody's up or in a session or talking with you or up on the stage at one of the performances everybody has seen, and they're just defiant, you can't hypnotize me, then they won't be hypnotized. Yeah. Is that the way it works?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's a skill, it's not a magical thing. It's actually a skill, and it can be taught, but it needs to be practiced. So like any skill, the first time, like some people there's like 20% of the population, more or less, that might be very kind of talented in it, meaning they don't need much practice and they're very suggestible. And then there's again, about 20% of the population that's the opposite, who are like, nah, they can't relax, they can't let go, they have decided they don't want to do this. Okay. And of course, with those people, it won't work. But then there's all the majority of us in the middle. And with those people, including myself, it's about understanding that basically hypnosis in itself is a state of an optimal learning state, and it's about having internal focus rather than external focus, and it's about being relaxed enough and able to concentrate enough on specific ideas that are suggested by a good hypnotherapist. But really the state in itself is something that we experience quite often, but we just don't do anything with it. So for example, every time we go to sleep, those moments when you have got your eyes closed, you're relaxing in bed, you're not asleep, but you're not fully awake, and you're kind of slowly falling asleep. Well, that's a hypnagogic state, meaning you're getting into a state of hypnosis without the hypnotherapist. It's just a state of relaxation and inward focus. And then, of course, you go to sleep and get completely unconscious. But then also in the morning, when you wake up and you're not quite, you're not asleep anymore, you're not quite awake, all these images and fleeting thoughts and come into your awareness. Well, that's called an hypnopompic state. So it's really, again, similar. Okay. And other states like that happen, like, for example, the meditation is pretty much like the state in which you go is very similar to hypnosis, depending on the depths of meditation, but what you do with it is different and how it's induced is different.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And like you said, for some people are better at doing this by themselves, but it sounds like the majority of people would need guidance to do this. And that's kind of what you help with. Am I right with that?
Yeah. I mean, it's like with meditation. You could learn meditation on your own, but it's going to be a little harder than if somebody helps you, you know?
Right. Okay. So for something like performance anxiety, stage fright, and all, is that something that can be overcome with hypnosis, or is it something that can be just dealt with hypnosis? I mean, can you eliminate it, or do you just deal with it through hypnosis?
Well, I mean, anxiety in itself, we don't want to get rid of it, and we can't get rid of it.
Okay.
But the level can be definitely lowered. So we're basically lowering it to a point where it is helping us instead of being destructive, because we do need a little bit of anxiety in order to have a performance that is actually interesting to watch. Because if you don't care, if you really don't care, it's boring to see a performer like, oh, I'm just doing this for myself.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, you don't want somebody just like they're asleep on stage. That would be terrible. It's So is hypnosis the main focus of your practice, or is it one of the other things that the life coaching or the psychology, or is it hypnosis?
Well, hypnosis is a tool. Okay. So everything is a tool, right? You know, sometimes basically what I like to do is to tailor what I will do with a client to their needs and to their objectives. So I don't decide in advance what I'm going to use, because, you know, it needs to be the other way around. It needs to come from the situation. And so I ask a lot of questions. You know, first I always have a consultation, and if it is a private kind of private practice kind of thing, then I'll have always a consultation. I ask them, you know, about their history, about what's going on with them, and then I'll use different tools that I have to resolve whatever situation. A lot of the time it is hypnosis, but not always. Sometimes hypnosis can't be used. Like, for example, if someone has ADHD, it's pretty much impossible or very difficult to hypnotize them.
So I didn't even think of that. That makes total sense. Yeah.
It's just because you need to be really, really focused. And if you can't focus at all, or you can, but for very short periods, or if you are, if you have dementia, or if you're a really, really young child, that doesn't work either. So, sometimes you have to work in different ways.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense to me now. And, you've written books on the subject. And so you mentioned using it for different things. I was reading, I'm not sure if it was on your website or if I was just doing my general research on it, but hypnosis can be used for things like anxiety, performance anxiety, but it can it be used for things like weight loss too?
Well, yeah, but insofar as it's concerning mindset,
okay,
and weight loss, there's a big component of, having the right mindset. Not the only thing, but, if you have a bad mindset, you're not going to lose any weight.
Right.
If you have a good mindset, it's easier. Of course, you still have to think about nutrition and exercise. That's part of it. But that's basically what the hypnotherapy part does, is that it helps people to think about their body in a different way, have a different relationship with it, have a different relationship with food.
Okay.
And do the right things, the things that will help you, such as good, exercise and eating healthily and portion size and how fast you eat and all those kind of things.
Okay, so that makes a lot more sense than because I kind of read that and then I stopped to make notes and then I kind of lost where I was. So that makes a lot more sense to me. But you've done some really interesting videos. For example, the fueling creativity through discomfort. I watched that one. I really liked that. That was really interesting because I tend to do that with this, doing this podcast. I'll have a lot of people on that with specialties that I'm not a musician. So talking to people about music, to me, I get a little it's out of my comfort zone. I'm a huge fan of music, but I don't know. I don't read music. I can't tell you an A chord from a G chord, but I love to hear stories and I love to learn. And I do a lot of photography, and I'm always put into weird lighting situations where I have to improvise a lot in that because I do a lot of live music photography. So I actually like being put into spaces where I'm not comfortable. I find it kind of makes me a little more creative. So that one really made a lot of sense to me. But you've also done videos. You did a quick 4-minute video on common mistakes people do practicing their music, which I thought was fantastic. Is that something that you offer just to the general public, or is that something that is tailored specifically to a profession or a client specifically?
You mean the videos in general, or just this particular one about the mistakes?
Well, the one I want to know a little bit more about the one about the mistakes, but in general, do you make videos for clients, and then if it seems to be something that works well, is more universal, you'll release it in a general state?
No, it's more like sometimes I just, as you may have realized, I get bored with just doing the same thing all the time. Right?
I've noticed that.
Yeah. So there was a time when I made loads of videos, like every week I had one, and I was trying to, I guess I've always been trying also to promote my online course, because as you know, it's not easy to kind of promote work in this very busy online environment if you don't have a lot of money. So I thought, well, the best way is to just kind of showcase what I know, so that people realize that I am reliable, trustworthy, I know what I'm talking about, and they may trust that I've got something to offer for them. So those videos are just for anyone in general. And also during the pandemic back in 2020, also I went through like a whole period where I went completely insane. I went into like every day I was doing like a meditation technique for everyone.
Wow.
And it was because I partly was very worried about the world, but I thought, well, I went into overdrive. I thought, I have to do this for people. I have to be like a positive. I have to do something positive, etc. But then I kind of overdid it and realized that I wasn't taking care of myself enough. So I thought, okay, no, this is too much. I need to like scale it down, and so now I do videos every once in a while. Whenever I got some time, I think, okay, let's do one, but it's a lot more relaxed.
Well, you've got some really inspirational and really interesting topics. So the one that I was drawn to, and they're between the half an hour, 25 to 35 minute range. So they're not super long. So people can watch them and digest it. So that it's not like, maybe a certain podcast that's over an hour long usually, or people can sit down and digest it a little easier. But your topics are really interesting, like fuel your creativity through discomfort, how to stay resilient as an artist, meditation for creative inspiration, jumpstarting projects, and it looks to me like that's something else that you specialize in, is helping creative people get their projects off the ground.
Well, yes, because I guess I've got some experience with that, in the sense that, I've got 12 albums. I had to actually like really go through it, and also the books. And so now I understand what sometimes we get into this mindsets where it's really hard to get to the next step, and it might be really difficult on your own to figure out how to overcome the obstacle. Whereas if someone else comes in who's done it before, it can be helpful, to figure out together a strategy to get to the next step and overcome the obstacle, rather than getting stuck in it, because I have been stuck I've been stuck just like anyone else. And so it's, I've had to overcome these obstacles. And I guess the other thing is, in my life, maybe because I'm quite resourceful, or maybe I was resourceful because of the fact that I didn't get a lot of help on the way. So on one hand, I learned a lot, but on the other hand, I thought, that wasn't much fun. I would like to help people to go a bit faster, so they don't have to suffer too much,
Yeah.
When you're stuck, it's not a good place to be, it's not, it can be very disappointing.
Yeah, you want to get out of that as quickly as you can.
Yeah, it feels like really an impossible task, and you don't know what to do, and so that's what I try to do, is to kind of be of help if I can in those situations, because I really want everybody to be able to express themselves, and I believe that if everybody feels comfortable and is happy, to do it, whatever it is that they want to do, whether it's like writing or singing or playing an instrument or something completely different, it doesn't matter. But if we all are more satisfied in ourselves, well, there's more chances that we can communicate to each other better, and and that we can somehow, I know it sounds, very idealistic, but, at least try to have a better world, where we're not constantly just fighting and not understanding each other. That's easy. It's easy to fight, but it's...
Yeah, that's so true. And you also offer a lot of your services online at this point. Was that something that started through the pandemic, or was that something you were starting before everything shut down?
Yeah, a little bit before, but not like to the extent of when the pandemic hit. During the pandemic, it just went overdrive, and I was seeing a lot of people online all the time. And now that after moving to New Zealand, I'm now seeing people in person again. But sometimes for things like performance anxiety, I see a lot of people from the US because the time zone is all right. It's not too far,
Yeah. I mean, it's like 2:45 my time. It's almost 9 o'clock a.m. your time.
Yeah, the day after. Yeah.
Wow. It kind of works. I mean, as long as you don't mind getting up a little early.
Yeah. I get up at 8 o'clock now since I moved, because I've got clients in the UK. So, they can't do any other time.
With this, are you still performing your music on a regular basis?
Yeah, so now at the moment, what I've decided just this year is to take about 6 months off, where I focus more on composition and also on learning. Like I'm studying a lot of piano at the moment with Berklee School of Music. Wow. I love that school. They're just amazing. It's very intense. Things. Yeah, it's very intense though. So it means that, I'm trying to run 2 businesses and then, composing and then blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, like I decided I can't, like I still will do some performance here and there to just keep my toe in. Yeah. But I have to focus, so the next 6 months will be composition learning and also getting my music school kind of more off the ground with, more students. And then after that, I'll get absolutely into performance and recording. So that's going to be 2025. Okay.
So do you use, or I guess I should phrase it this way, do you still use your techniques to help you with your composition and with your businesses, your self-hypnosis and because self-hypnosis is really interesting to me, because with what I've seen and what everybody on the planet seems to have seen is that it's always somebody guiding you through hypnosis. Self-hypnosis to me is fascinating because it's just you. I mean, are you practicing it for your art, and how does self-hypnosis work?
Well, there's kind of 2 ways that you can. And there's 2 kind of ways that you can use it. So one is if you use your own voice and you record, like basically in every hypnotic session, you have 2 parts. Mm-hmm. The beginning is called an induction, and it's where you basically induce the state of hypnosis. Okay. And then the second part is the process, whatever it is you do with it. Now, of course, when we have a lot of interactive processes, you can't really do it yourself. So you need an external person, a hypnotherapist. Okay. On the other hand, instead of it's just suggestions, then what you can do is either record the induction. There's 2 ways. So say you record the induction and then you record your voice saying the suggestions. So it's basically almost like it's you yourself being the hypnotherapist.
Okay.
Yeah, right. That's probably the easiest thing to do. The other way is a little bit more advanced, and it's when you have done it for quite a long time. You are now proficient and you can hypnotize yourself like in, I don't know, a minute or whatever. That's very fast.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, that is advanced. It's not something that you would do the first time.
Okay.
And then you might have like a keyword, so like say that you are thinking about a specific topic, you write down all these suggestions, but then when you're preparing, you use a big keyword to associate all of those suggestions to the keyword, not keyboard.
Oh, well,
Yeah. And basically you're anchoring a visual, symbolic, perhaps, a symbolic visual to the keyword as well, or that's another way of using the keyword. I find that for myself, I prefer to have somebody guide me, which is quite annoying in some way because I wish that I could just use me. Right. But the problem with that is that I find it difficult to get into hypnosis with my own voice because I am like criticizing myself, not criticizing, but I'm like, oh, I could have done that better. Oh, that tone is not quite right or whatever. So it takes me out of it.
Oh, you're analyzing yourself at the same time.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Like you can't do that. If you do that, you're not going to get into hypnosis, So that's why I try to have other people help me with it.
So what is the best way for people to find out more about the services you offer? Because you do offer quite a lot within. There's coaching, there's a hypnotherapy, there's psychotherapy, there's meditation. What's the best way for people to find out what you offer and how you can help other people with their anxieties and maybe with the coaching, help people get a project off the ground?
Yeah, well, basically everything is on my website. So elisadiNapoli.com is the place to go. And then everything is there. Also, I wanted to say I've got this free masterclass for anyone in your audience. They can do it for free. And I made a specific link for, your podcast. So it's like awesome. Elisa Di Napoli. Yeah, it's elisadiNapoli.com. And let me just double check that. elisadiNapoli.com/performance anxiety, but all together as a word.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And that's basically a very practical, about a 45-minute kind of workshop where you get very, actionable things you can do before a performance to kind of get ready, awesome. Some kind of ritual, if you like. Well, not a ritual in a religious sense, but things you can do to get ready, especially if you feel nervous, so that you learn how to calm down before the performance.
I will definitely be checking that out because I feel like I could probably use that every time I record a podcast. So I will definitely be using my own link. Thank you so much. I had no idea you were going to do that. Thank you.
No problem.
So what is the best way for people to find? So you said your website, are you active on social media? Or are there links on the website to find that? Or is it better to look up Elisa Di Napoli through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever it's called?
I do have all this Instagram, Twitter, etc., Facebook, but to be honest, I use them only to point people to the different websites that I have. So the elisadiNapoli.com is the website that's got everything to do with hypnotherapy, coaching, etc. The other one, ElyssaVulpes.com, is more to do with music. So all the stuff to do with music is there. And then, yes, of course, you can find me if you just go Elisa Di Napoli or Elyssa Vulpes, you'll find all of those things. It's just I'm not super into social media, to be honest. I'm too busy to really do that as well. So I just write posts and try to get people to go to the website.
You perform music under a different name. Is there something behind the performance name, Elyssa Vulpes?
Okay, this is kind of silly. So
I love silly.
Yeah. So Elisa is obviously my birth name, Elisa. But when you live in a foreign country where speak English, a lot of people mispronounce it and say, Alicia or Elise or Eliza, and especially Eliza. I can't stand it for some reason. So So I thought, well, maybe, if I change my name to Elyssa, they pronounce it more like Elisa, but no, actually that doesn't work either. So it's like, and then Vulpes is my mom's name.
Okay.
Yeah. So like maiden name. And so I thought, maybe, Elyssa Vulpes sounds great. And I also at the beginning, a long time ago when I started doing therapy and all of that, I was a bit self-conscious. I thought, maybe people don't want to know that their therapist is also like a musician or whatever. Like it's silly now, but back in the day.
But I can see that. I can understand the reasoning behind that.
Right. Yeah. And so that's why this double personality. But now I'm very open about it. And I'm like, well, still me. It's just using different names for different areas of my life.
When you are creating music, are you a little more active on social media with that? Or is that kind of a similar situation where you're just kind of using it to promote the work?
Yeah, I still use it to promote the work. At the moment, though, I'm the one thing that I'm doing that is not my website is I'm on Substack as a
I love Substack.
Because I didn't mention this, but I write short stories, and
awesome.
So basically I've just started it, and I publish a short story every month. And then within that, I will have kind of a sub-category. I'm not going to do it yet, but later I'll probably have just a section of people that, of paid subscriber rather than free subscriber. And there I will publish my horror stories because I write horror sometimes.
Oh, cool.
And I thought, you definitely maybe don't want your therapist to write horror.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah. So I thought if you're really into it, then you'll have to pay for it. Otherwise, I don't want it to just appear, and on the web.
You get into self-hypnosis and start reading one of your therapist's horror stories. That might not work out so well.
No, not at all.
Well, I love Substack. I just started subscribing to some people, so I'll definitely check you out on that. And is that under Elyssa Vulpes too?
Yes, it's under Elyssa Vulpes. Yeah.
This has really been fascinating. It's a totally different type of topic than I've ever had on the podcast, and it's fascinating. You do so much. What is the best way for people to reach out to you? Is it through the website to find out your services and maybe to reach you in order to schedule some sessions?
Yeah, probably website is always good. Email is the way to get to me. I answer to emails. So either info@elisadinapoli.com or info@elysavulpes.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I've kept you for almost an hour at this point. I know you're trying to run two businesses, so I don't want to keep you away from that. And it is Monday morning for you. It's Sunday afternoon for me. So you got work to do. So thank you so much for spending your morning with me. It's really been fascinating.
Yeah, it's been really fun actually. So thank you.
When we met the first night, I thought this guy's just right. We got on like a house on fire. Then we went for a walk. We talked and